You are listening to the Keenan Vision podcast produced by Salesforce Devops.net. This is episode 12, broadcast Tuesday, October 18th, 2022. Salto, Salesforce DevOps Top Products Demo with Vern. Let's commit. Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the Keenan Vision podcast. I'm Vern Keenan, and I'm here with Dan Puttman from Salto. And Dan's going to take us through Salto, and I'm just going to hand it off to Dan right now to first tell us a little bit about himself and to explain how he got going with Salto.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm a customer engineer with Salto. At Salto, that means that I'm with the customer from start to finish. So pre-sales, introduction, technical validation, all the way through onboarding and continued success. So
Cool.
Yeah, my background, I'm actually an engineer by trade. So I spent about 13 years in development, consulting, leading teams and whatnot before I tried my own hand at a startup and ejected from that into this role as a customer engineer. So trying to bridge business and tech. Which has been great. It was kind of, for me. Go ahead.
Have you been in the Salesforce ecosystem much? Or I know Salto handles a lot of different systems.
We do, yeah. So I've worked with everyone across our spectrum of business applications, but in terms of living my day-to-day in Salesforce, I am. It's always been tangential through using the product itself, and now I'm elbow deep in it with our customers. So,
excellent. Well, today I'd like you to go through kind of like what Salto is, why somebody might want to use it. Then we're going to spend most of our time on the demo.
Terrific. Music to my ears. So let me share my screen and hop into the why of Salto, our philosophy and whatnot. So like you mentioned, Vernon, we are a multi-app solution. Oh, it's auto going. We are a multi-app solution. So we go through Salesforce, but also Zendesk and NetSuite and a bunch of others because we believe that these ecosystems today really drive the business and they need to be interconnected. So Salesforce is at the core of all that. So it'd be silly not to be in the ecosystem and really providing the same solution for all these teams.
No, I kind of see Salto as, maybe you guys don't label yourself this way, but I see you as a leader in SaaS DevOps, to kind of apply the same methods to different SaaS systems to try to get yourself organized. Is that fair?
I think that's fair. Yeah, really for us, and we have an engineering background amongst almost all of our team is heavily engineering. And so we spent decades using these methodologies on the software development side. So trying to bring those tools and technologies and best of breed back to the biz app world is really core to what we're trying to do, whether it be Salesforce or other apps. Yeah.
Cool.
So,
please continue.
Cool. I will. We just talked about this right here. So I'll hop forward and to the importance of it. And I think this is going to resonate with most people that spend more than a day in Salesforce is that as you're scaling your business, as these apps become key to growth as Salesforce is, you need to add more customization to meet your business goals. And as soon as you put more logic and more emphasis on these apps, you get a higher risk when it falls over, when you can't customize around your business, when you are trying to build something and break something else. That's all now hitting your core business. Yep. So it's absolutely critical that our solution, as well as all the others out there, they need to solve these problems. So,
yeah, SaaS has moved into the realm of critical applications. That's for sure.
It absolutely is, and it's not going to stop. So we got to get out there and make sure people have access to this, and then it's easily usable because a lot of our customers aren't engineering focused, right? They're trying to build something to sell something or to market something and support those teams. They don't want to always look at code. They don't want to have to get deep into customization. So we need to make our solution just as easy.
That's right. Cool.
So yeah, typical challenges that everyone's run into is that when you don't have these processes and these tools in place, there's a lot more manual time involved in getting changes from one place to another, or doing documentation, trying to figure out why something broke, or why it didn't work the way you intended it to work, which just creates these longer cycles, which slows down your business, which costs you money. It's like I said, everyone that's been in this space for more than a little while is going to feel these pains.
That's right. I think these are some of the things why people do DevOps, basically.
100%. Yeah. And then what we bring to the table is we do 4 core things. We let you explore all those configs and metadata, specifically in Salesforce and other products. Taking those changes from one environment, lifting and shifting into another environment, doing automation. So we just added the ability to do CI/CD, using best of breed.
That's a new feature.
It is, yeah. So obviously, there's always the manual piece, the very simplified version, but as your team grows, as you get a little more mature in your processes, you're going to want to add in automation and the step of doing checks, right? And sign-offs and all these things. So we've added that in. That can be orchestrated using whatever CI/CD tool you like. Again, we try and bring best of breed to the table and not reinvent the wheel. So if it's the Circle CI or Jenkins, what have you, we automate using that. And then version control there at the bottom, which is, again, critical for tracking where you've been. If you are in need of SOX compliance and being audited, absolutely critical, even beyond the benefits you get to your day-to-day development. So
nice.
Yeah, that's what we do in a nutshell. So
cool. All right. Yeah. Now we're getting to the good part, right?
Yeah, exactly. Again, show me, don't tell me, right? So
now that thing so what we're looking at here is the Salto app, right? So I just want to make it clear everybody understands that you're a SaaS product that manages other SaaS products, essentially.
We are, yep. So
and I just wanted to mention for the audience, the thing that's nice about that, the reason why I like that, sounds kind of like doubly complicated, but the reason why that's good is you've got one place now to try to organize all these things, and it can help with DevOps sprawl and other, if you've got different teams trying to manage different stuff, to have a SaaS system to put all your stuff into is really valuable.
100%. Yeah. And it makes it easier for us to do those connections. The world is moving towards SaaS more and more. So for us to manage that and have people not have to manage infrastructure, whatnot, we find that to be useful for our clients. Okay. At the same time, what I would say is that we're also flexible enough to meet people where they need to be. If you need to add things, if you like to see things in Git or see things in other areas, we're rather agnostic. So we're flexible enough to meet people with their current processes and infrastructure. So, all right. So let's dive in. As I said, interrupt me wherever you have an idea or have a question. I love interruptions. I don't like hearing myself talk.
Well, good, because I do that a lot.
So I've got 2 environments I've got set up here, DP1 and DP2. As you can see, I've already fetched the configurations for both these environments. And these are just demo environments.
Now, just for example, just for the audience, this could be like my my main org and a sandbox, right? Could be the 2
Precisely.
different. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I'm keeping it really simple with 2 sandboxes here, but between 2 sandboxes, between a production org and a sandbox, what have you, we're really agnostic. If we can hit that API for that instance, for that environment or org, then we're good to go. So
okay.
Yep. So I've already fetched all the configs to save us a little time in this podcast. So I've got a couple of flows here that I like to show off our exploration with. So this part of the application is based all around looking at the impact of my changes before I make them, right? Understanding all these interactions between objects and elements. So I've got a Zendesk lead flow. So talking about, possibly an incoming lead for us. I do something really simple. I have a look here at, I assign a rating to this. Okay, and I can see that here. I can see.
So what we're looking at here is how Salto analyzed all that XML that defines that particular flow.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is the view that we put the data into, and it's backed by our NaCl file. So we pull in that XML data that we're taking out of that Salesforce, and we convert it into a more readable format. Here, this NaCl. Now, you don't. If you're a developer, you might love to look at this. If you're not a developer, you might want to look at it in our friendlier format. So we're trying to meet users with their role and how they like to look at stuff.
So let's just take a minute though and explain what NaCl is and how you guys came up with it.
Yeah, so NaCl stands for not another configuration language, because we're nerds and cheeky like that.
And that's also the chemical formula for salt. So
it is. Yeah. So that is kind of plays nicely off each other. So you'll see a number of little puns like that. Our mascot, the beaver, his name is Knuckles. So Knuckles, we just can't help ourselves.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah. So,
you came up with it as like, I mean, I see it as like a universal metadata language that works across apps. Is that fair?
Absolutely. That is very fair. And it's actually based on, again, where we're trying to bring things from the tech world or the software development world into the biz app world. This is based off of Terraform and their format, how they do things across multiple cloud and infrastructure providers. So
right,
we're doing things that have been done before, but need to be brought over and altered slightly to work for biz apps. So we're not ashamed to take inspiration from the best in other realms.
Yeah, when I first looked at the Salto, I say they're kind of like the Terraform of Salesforce. It's like you've got a configuration language that's specific. Well, not specific, it's generalized for business, and it can be used then to define anything.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it gives that flexibility to work across applications and keep a singular flow. So if you're managing more than Salesforce, that comes in awful handy for these large organizations.
But like you mentioned, it's code oriented. It might give geeks like me a little tingle, but you don't have to look at it, right? This going to be the last time we're going to look at NaCl for this demo, or are we going
to? Yeah. Well, I'm going to show it one more time for the diff, so you can see how we actually show diffs between orgs in both views as well. So.
But the point is, this is within the realm of admins, not
exactly,
not developers.
Yes. Yep. It's entirely. You're talking about Salto itself.
Yeah, Salto's an admin friendly.
Yeah, it's admin friendly, and developers might come in here as well when we get to it to say. Well,
it has a deeper. So I don't want people to think that you got to use NaCl to do your stuff.
No, absolutely not. Yep. No, we're again. I'll use the term probably a few more times, but agnostic, right? To where we're not going to force you into a corner, into any one box. We want to provide value where it makes sense and fill the holes that you currently can't fill.
But I like, from an engineering perspective, how this kind of induces rigor in your in how you guys look at things. There's a standard which you're working against.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, please continue.
Cool. So let me dive into kind of the strength of Salto in this view. This is where we can hop down here. So I've got this flow, I've got an entry condition, I have an action. But the really important part, and this works for all elements that have references and dependencies and relationships, is I have those listed all out right here at the bottom. So I can see I've got a DP rating and DP product that I've placed on the lead object that I'm using in this trigger. And at a click, I can hop right to that field, right to that dependency, see what's going on in it, see how it's used, see some of the fields and whatnot. And most importantly, because I have that full set of references and we've got it mapped out appropriately, I can now come down and see that I'm using this field in some other places. So I'm using it in a different flow. I've got another lead rating flow here that I hit.
That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, as well as a layout. If I had triggers I was using this in, things like that, that would all show up here. So I know the impact I'm going to make prior to making it.
So that's what I refer to as change intelligence.
Mhm.
And some other folks are using that phraseology, but essentially, I think it's kind of critical when you're in a complex org to figure out what it is you're actually messing around with. If you're trying to change something, this gives you all the dependencies you need to try to realize that the change you're going to do is going to have unanticipated consequences.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as, like you said, as things get more complex, it becomes more and more and more important. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. The kind of like double level there of
Hmm.
where it's also used, the reference.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. And then again, because we've got all this data pulled locally, it's incredibly quick to just click and hop right to it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no waiting. You can navigate quite quickly using these views. So.
And that's all built on the NaCl database that you have in there, and
Mhm.
it all kind of emerges from that data model that you have.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
Precisely. Same data model we're going to use later on in our deployment and other areas to really speed things up, to catch errors before they happen, both in deploys and analysis. Yeah.
Good.
Great. So speaking of deployments, I'm
Yes.
actually at this point I like to hop over to deployments because I can show off both versioning and deploy kind of in our one smooth flow. So why don't I take this lead rating I've got here, and I'm going to move it up from DP1 to DP2 because I made a modification to it. It is in both environments, but I've made a modification.
Okay.
So let me show that off here. So I'll start the new deployment, and I'll just need to make sure I've got the right environments here. Go ahead.
So here we're just doing the basic thing that is like a requirement for Salesforce DevOps, which is
Mhm.
to manage putting code from one place to another.
Absolutely. Yep. Exactly. And again, this is our simplified flow. We have a deeper, more power user flow as well in CI/CD. But this is kind of like you said. This is square one, base level. We try to nail this and show this off in demos, but we have other capabilities as well if we want to go deeper.
But this
So.
is table stakes because this is what a lot of people want to do with DevOps Center and some of the other Salesforce DevOps platforms.
Hmm. Yeah, precisely. So I will deploy my Zendesk rating.
Mm-hmm.
And so the beautiful thing, again, about having all that metadata is in my comparison now, you see over here on the left-hand side, I get to see all of the differences between these two orgs. So this is useful, obviously, for deployments. I can open up my flow here. I can see I got my Zendesk lead rating that I've added some, I've got some changes here. I've changed the number value. I've added a number value to how I'm assigning this reference. I've changed the reference, and I'm removing the old string value. Excuse me, it was must be internet issues. So let me log back in here real quick. And another nice thing is you see I'm right back at my deploy. It's all safe server
Mm-hmm.
side, so it's super quick to come back to.
There's some cookie action going on there.
Yeah, it's always fun, isn't it? Always in the middle of a live demo. So we'll pull this back up, and you can see here at a glance. So I'm back in that friendly view we were talking about earlier.
Yep.
I can see at a glance, right, what's changing here. So I'm changing my reference from
That's
one
nice.
custom
Yeah.
field to another. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've got the values that changed here. So I see the types as well as what I'm actually altering in this nice color coded format. And then you'll see up here at the click of a button, I can, again, if I like seeing things in this other view, the raw
Mm-hmm.
view, you absolutely can. So it's we don't start here, but if you like to go in, nerd out a little bit, like we might want to, that's here for looking. So
Good. I like that.
yeah. So let me go ahead and take this lead rating here. Now, astute people might have noticed this up here, altering and updating. So related elements, this is, again, absolutely key. A lot of people we run into with change that say this is something that doesn't get enough visibility is the dependencies, right? And exactly
Well,
what's going on. Or
let me
may
just
not say
point
it's
out
correct.
for
Yeah.
people, this is the kind of thing that will keep you from doing multiple deployments to resolve errors,
Mhm. Yes.
basically.
Yes.
So it's a
Um,
gigantic time saver to have this kind of visibility into related elements and so forth.
mhm. The beautiful thing here is we do it 2 times over. So we have related elements, so you can do it proactively. We kind of raise a flag and say, hey, check this out. You got this DP rating that's coming in. It's a new addition. So this is a brand new field. You can see I'm removing other things in here, so you get visibility into other things that are going on,
Mm-hmm.
as well as the DP rating that I'm adding. So I'm saying, yep, I do want to add that to my next environment. Great. And okay, I don't have any more elements. There's no more dependencies. So I can feel pretty confident I can move forward with this deployment. But when I do preview, we're actually going to double check it again, right? So you
Okay.
think you're good. You think you selected everything. Now we're kind of doing that pre-flight for the deployment. So if there were an issue, like say I forgot to click on DP rating or what have you, it would show up in skipped. So we'd say we staged all of this, but we can't send these elements for these reasons. And you get a nice little error saying
Mm-hmm.
what it was. In this case, it would have been like a unreferenced field. And we would have said, please go back and add it.
Once again, this is helping you get around all the glitches that go along with big deployments and change sets and the
Absolutely.
old way of doing things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's again, we could talk about context switching, the cost of a failed deployment, all these things. But we all know it's a headache. And even before you lose time.
I mean, the reason why I got into this is that as a developer, I was always frustrated with how slow everything was in Salesforce. And I think
Yeah.
all these tools are helping us maybe not make it go faster, but we're a lot smarter and we're not going down these blind alleys.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. It's just like you said, in this modern world, we need to have these tools because it's not worth it to do it that way, the old way.
That's right.
So let me show this. Yep, you can again review all your changes if you wanted to double check. This is actually a staging point. So I could be developers having built this deployment, whatnot, gotten it to this point, and then I might not have deployment access. I might not have that admin privilege to actually do the deployment. So I could kick this link over to my admin, my manager, whoever has access, for them to do a review before clicking that deploy. So even if you're not using CI/CD, we still have some of these points built in where you can do reviews, get a little more process in place than you might have today.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So let's fire this off. Always
Okay.
the fun part. Again, live demos. Let's fire this off and see it get pushed up. Again, we're handling all these API hits here. If anything does fail, we have the option to say do a rollback on a bad deploy. We have some advanced features like we can utilize some of those deployments, the test deployments. So you're not actually deploying a lot of those things built into Salesforce. You're able to access here from Salto as well. So
now it's doing the important thing, which is to figure out how the org changed and remember that.
Yep. Yeah. So we've deployed, and because again we're developers, we'd like to make sure that our deployment worked appropriately. We just don't trust the API responses. So we went and we're fetching that data and comparing it to say, yep, okay, it matches up with what we expected. And then we say here, Knuckles is dancing because we have successfully done it and we validated those changes. So here's a new thing we've added recently. We've always had version control, but now we have this automatic functionality to stage these changes to a Git commit. So you don't need to be a Git expert. Again, to use Salto, you can just click this button after you're doing a deployment, and we'll go ahead and we'll grab those config files. We'll stage them for the deployment. We'll pre-populate your message with, hey, who made this deployment, the target environments, a link to deployment in Salto, as well as a list of the files that are being saved here.
Mm-hmm.
So this again is just an additional piece of where we want to simplify. We want to make the flow as easy to accomplish as possible. Fewer clicks. Most people are going to utilize this auto staging for their deployment changes.
But this would be if I wanted to use pull requests or something to manage my
No, this is totally separate. So if you're
Okay.
not there yet in your process, this is purely for creating that version and that audit trail for
Okay.
what you've done. Yep.
Okay. Got
So
it.
yeah, and if again, this is again for audit trail. Here I've got a Jira ticket. So let's say I've got a change request that kicked all this off. That maybe you want to alter this flow. We're
Mm-hmm.
leveraging what's out there. So
Yep.
the Get Jira connection. And this works for any connection. If you're using some other type of ticketing system, it probably has a Git integration. So we can leverage that, pop a message or the ticket ID right in there. And now when I push, I've created that linkage back to my external systems, in this case, Jira, and that change request to the work I actually did for it. So I'll come to this ticket, I'll refresh, and I should have a commit right there.
Got
And
it.
now I've got the message right there telling me that it's deployed to this environment by this person, and these are the configs that I pushed. So
What happens if we click on the commit link? Does that take us to GitHub?
yep. So right here is you're going to get the connection to GitHub. Again, if you're more of a developer or technically oriented,
Cool.
you can always do that. Yep. And then you have this link right here to the actual Salto deployment too. So whatever you need to see, we've tried to give easy access to hop in between these applications in your ecosystem.
It's pretty rigorous in the documentation angle.
It is, especially not just for your own team to understand what's been done and if you have to do a revert or something, but also for when someone external to your team comes in looking to say, have you guys been rigorous? Have you covered all your changes? You're being audited? This
Right.
provides that coverage. Yep.
Well, that's a natural requirement for a lot of Salesforce DevOps customers because the reason why they're doing it frequently is because they have those external auditors already looking at them. So, like if you're building a clinical trials application, or if you're building if you're a public company and you've got financial services, or if you've let's say you're a financial services company, a load provider, and you've got to audit and trace all the activity in those kinds of systems. So,
Yep, precisely. So
the critical app requirement.
yeah. So that's I'd say that is the critical flows here in Salto. We don't have enough time to dive into CI/CD and really showing all the orchestration there because it's a huge chunk. But that is something you mentioned, the PR flow, right? So if I wanted to take this change and instead of promoting it through Salto, say doing a merge in Git, and on that merge, on that approval in that merge, having Salto automatically deploy it to the environment, that is now possible with this new orchestration.
Yeah, well, that's nice.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think also there's a CLI, right? And I can use that CLI to do a lot of the things we're doing on the screen here, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm glad you pointed that out. Salto, again, philosophically, we're an open source project. So the SaaS tool obviously, costs money, subscriptions, but underlying all of this is an open source CLI that anyone can go use, alter, edit, build upon. So, we believe rising tides, can raise all ships.
So if I'm using GitHub Actions or something, I can use Salto through that CLI.
100%. Yep. And there's actually two CLIs. There's the CLI orchestrating these things in Salto, and the CLI tool that's going to be connecting with Salto to do those deployments. So leveraging the CI/CD functionality within Salto. So yeah.
Okay. Well, we're about at the end of our thing today, demo today. So I'll give you a chance here, Dan, to wrap up on Salto.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm really thankful for the time. Obviously, I love showing off the product and nerding out. I'd love to be able to show off some of those more advanced pieces to Salto, but it's a big ecosystem like we talked about. So
I'm sure if somebody's really interested, they'll call you up and how do they get in touch with Salto? What's the best way?
So you can go to the website. We have a free tier you can sign up for and reach out to us that way. That would allow them to actually do impact analysis for free. They can also get a hold of me at dan.puttman@salto.io. if they like. But I guarantee you, one way or another, we will get them the demo they need if they like. So people always say, "Well, I don't want to take any more of your time," but that's my job. I love doing this. So.
Well, we do have a limited broadcast schedule here, so we're going to. I think we're going to have to end it today at our 30 minutes. But Dan, that was awesome. Thank you very much for today. And once again, thanks everybody for watching the Keenan Vision podcast. And our demo today was Salto. And we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to this edition of the Keenan Vision podcast. Please come visit the Salesforce Devops.net website and sign up for email notifications of significant updates. Thanks to 10 Ton Chicken for the music, which is available on iTunes. And also be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review about how well we did on this podcast.